All right, we are here with Tommie Turner, longtime Santa Fe High School coach. Thank you for letting us do this interview today.
No problem.
We're trying to enlighten and educate people in the history of track and field, and I know that you have a rich history with track and field, so I want to ask you a few questions of your early days, but mainly it's going to be about your running career, your coaching career, things like that. So to start out the early days, where did you grow up?
My home is St. Louis, Missouri, a little city, well, actually a suburb of St. Louis. I call it St. Louis my home, but it's like me living in Archer, but I have Gainesville residence, but that's how it is. One street, I could be in one city, suburbs or another. But St. Louis, Webster Groves, Missouri is where I'm basically from.
Okay.
It's a suburb of St. Louis.
All right. What sports did you compete in growing up? Was it just track and field, or did you play other sports?
I played JV football in high school, but in junior high I did track only. They had a track program. They didn't have football or anything else. They didn't have a basketball program, matter of fact.
So was it just out of...
I was used to, people used to call me the running man, but my nickname is T-Bird. I got it in college, but I used to run everywhere. Send me to the grocery store, I run. Be back in a couple of minutes.
So you were just always on the move quickly.
I was running, probably one of the fastest guys around my area, even some of the good athletes. My brothers are probably better athletes than I am.
Okay.
They play baseball, football, basketball. I'm 5'9". I have two brothers, 6'2", 6'3".
Okay. Do you just have two brothers?
I have two brothers.
Okay.
Oh, one older, one younger.
Okay,
but
so
I'm look like the baby of the family.
Okay, so you're the middle child, but you look like
I
the
look
baby.
like the baby of the
but
family.
you were the fastest of the three,
I was
right?
the fastest of the three, but they were more talented. My brother probably could made Major League Baseball, basketball, whatever you wanted to do, but it just, some people are made for certain things, some people are not.
Gotcha.
He just didn't.
Now, did that quickness come from them chasing you all the time, or
it was just a thing in the neighborhood. We ran everywhere. We went everywhere. Every kid in the neighborhood that we did, we all played together. Any Saturday, you could find about 10 or 20 kids playing some kind of sports in somebody's backyard. So parents didn't have to find us, look for us. They knew where we were.
Okay.
We had one place we went, and actually it was at one of my best friend's grandfather's house, and we get a phone call. Somebody says, "Come home." Everybody went home.
So kind of like the Sandlot movie, like they
had
one spot.
One spot, we all go play. We played football, we played baseball, we played softball. Whatever sport we wanted to play was all in one spot.
And there was enough kids to make up teams.
Enough kids to make teams. I learned how to I broke my collarbone playing. We played football, tackle football. It wasn't touch.
Right.
It wasn't touch. We played tackle football, and I broke my collarbone as a youngster back then.
Okay.
I played football in high school, on my 9th grade team, but I was stuck with track mostly after that.
Okay. Where did you attend high school at?
I went to Webster Groves High School.
Okay.
Same high school I went through in the community.
Okay. And what were your high school time? Well, what events did you run in, and then what were your times?
Originally, I was a hurdler. I ran the 120s back then, and the 400, 180s. Before they did the 300 and the 400, but they were running back 180s back when.
And this is yards, not.
These are yards.
Right.
These are all yards.
Okay.
And it's not on AstroTurf or all-weather tracks either.
Did you run on cinders?
I ran on cinder. Actually, we got the cinders from the furnace at the high school.
Really?
Yeah. They bring them and put it on the track. We had to market. Coaches had to market every day with,
So track and field just for
back in the day was bad.
Right. So like a normal practice, like it was just a lot of setup just to have practice, just to know where your marks were.
Where your marks were, or even getting good traction. You had to have at least decent shoes.
Right.
But back then there wasn't a lot of good shoes. Maybe
Well,
Adidas was probably the only, and I think one other name brand.
Is Adidas what you mainly ran in?
I mainly ran in high school because Nike didn't come on until 70s.
Right.
Up to that point, I was not wearing anything but
But Adidas.
Adidas until I went to 72 Olympic trials.
Okay. Murray State, did they recruit you? Did you just decide you
No,
wanted to go there?
They recruited me. Strange situation. The head coach at the time was the guy that recruited me. He had emergency eye operation, and the biggest eye doctor medicine was in St. Louis, but Murray's not that far. It's like 3 hours away.
Okay.
And he used to come up there all the time, and he happened to look at the local newspaper, and my name was always in it. So he started recruiting me. I never went on a recruiting trip. The first day I went to school is the first day I saw the campus.
Wow.
I never saw the campus.
So you just...
I just liked the information
did
that he was sending me.
So was he sending you mail?
He was
calling you?
He was sending me mails, calling me, sending me weekly news reports about the kids, what they were doing in the conference, Ohio Valley Conference. And they had a very good team. Back in that day, they were dominating. And I was excited about what they were doing.
Okay.
And I never went to visit the school except the day I went.
So let me step back a second.
Mm-hmm.
So what times were you running in high school?
Okay, when I was running the hurdles, 110 hurdles, I was running like low 15s. 180s, I was running 19.5.
Okay.
Which was probably, back then, 19.5 was pretty good.
Okay.
I was like rated number 1 or 2 in the area in the 180s.
Okay.
110, 100 hurdles 120 hurdles wasn't one of my favorites, but I was stronger at the 180s.
And you ran the 440?
But I ran the 400, no, only on the relay.
Okay.
And the 4x1s. I ran the hurdles and the 4x1 and the 4x4.
Okay, so not the open 4.
Not the open until my senior year. I was running better relay splits. I was splitting 48s on the relay.
Okay.
And the school state record was 48.2. And the coach decided, you got a better chance of going to state in the 400 than you do in the 180s and win. So he took me out of the 180s and put me in the 400 for the district.
Okay.
I ran 48.2, tied the state record.
At the district?
At the district.
Okay.
So my best time in high school was 47.9.
Okay. And did you make it to any state meets?
I won the state.
Okay.
We won both, the
Okay.
4x4 and the 400.
Now, is this just your senior year?
That was my senior year. I only went to state once.
Okay. You won the 1971 NCAA 600-yard indoor race.
Mm-hmm.
Were you the favorite going into that race? Was it an upset?
No, I was a favorite. I had been there 3 times,
Okay.
runner-up twice, because back then in the NCAA, they used to do it, run 2 heats
Okay.
against time.
For the indoor meet.
For the indoor meet. They
Right.
used to run 2 heats in the 400 and the 600.
Okay.
And I think some of the other races, the sprint races, because of the tracks back then weren't, you're talking about not 200-meter bank tracks.
Right. It wasn't
They were
the nice, luxurious tracks we have today.
11 laps to a track.
Oh, wow.
Okay, 11 laps to a mile.
Okay.
So I was favorite, and I tried 2 years runner-up and 2 years runner-up, and I was disappointed. And I told him if somebody was going to beat me, they would have to set a world record. That was my commitment for the whole year. If I was going to win, I would have to set a world record. I ran 109.5, was almost close to a world record.
That's
world
awesome.
record was 109 flat.
That's awesome. So that fast was...
It's over. 2.5 laps.
Wow. So...
Yeah, I was favorite at that point, but I was
you
happened to be in the second heat, and you have to run you beat the first time.
Right. And that was your senior year.
That was my senior year.
So you made it your sophomore, junior year, and just came up a little
Came
short.
up short because of time.
Right.
Heats against time.
Right.
I won my heats, but
somebody beat you in another heat. But the 71, your senior year, you were in the second heat, so you could see what you needed to run.
And I told him if he's going to win, he better run a record, because I was determined to run. I had been running good times. I came in with almost the same time. I came in at 109.6, so I was favorite, but I was You never can tell.
Where was that?
It
Where
was
was
at
that
Cobo
at?
Hall
Where?
in Detroit.
Okay.
It's called Cobo. It was Cobo Hall back then. That's where I used to hold NCAA every year.
Okay. Let's see. You were on the 1971 Pan Am gold medal 4x4 team. How'd you end up on that team?
You had to finish. What I finished in the top six to finish to make the team.
Top six.
Top six out of in the finals. They select you. Some people select not to go. Some select to go to Europe and run.
And this is the final in the finals of
finals
what?
of the U staff.
Okay.
National championship.
Okay.
Back then it was called U staff.
So that was how you qualified.
That's how you qualified for the Pan American team. They didn't have Olympic trials like.
Gotcha.
It was selected from the U staff meet.
Okay. Where was the 71 Pan Am Games?
It was in Cali, Colombia.
Okay.
That's, if you know anything about South America, if you know anything about Cali, Colombia, either you're rich with money or you very poor. And I think our complex, or where the housing compound was close to where the lower class people were living. It's a strange story if I can turn away for a minute. This was in Cali, Colombia. The 4x4 relay team won. We ran close to almost under 3 minutes. We ran a 3 minutes, 0.6 seconds time. The strange thing happened was we had a little local kid come to the village every day. We don't know where he went at night, but he was there every day. He came every day, and we just adopted him. Mainly the women's team did. But he somehow or another came to the relay guys. He liked us for some reason. But he was around all the time. And they fed him, they gave him whatever he wanted. He cheered us on and everything. The finals of the 4x4, we decided as a team, these are the 4 guys. Some of them you might know. John Smith, I'm included, Fred Newhouse, Dale Alexander. We won the relay, and at the ceremonies they give you the awards and you stand on the podium. We decided to take him and put him on our shoulder and put all our medals around his neck. This picture is in a lot of magazines. That one is that the Olympic team put in the Olympic book, which I have a book of. This picture is it. So he's around the world.
And what was his name?
We don't know.
You don't even know his name?
We do
he
not know.
He just showed up every day, huh?
We do not know his name. We don't know what happened to him. We don't, I mean, right now he could be in his, back then, 50s. We don't know. We never knew what happened to him when we left.
Right.
We just know that this happened. That was the most exciting thing that ever happened while I was there. But it was a strange. We had be in compound like we were in jail.
Right.
Because we couldn't go anywhere. We weren't allowed to leave the compound.
It was very strict.
It was very strict because of
everything going on in
drugs
Colombia.
Going on, the cartel.
Pablo Escobar and all of his guys.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Gotcha.
So that's just interesting. That's the most exciting part of the Cali, Colombia that I enjoyed about it, other than winning the gold medal.
Okay. You were on the 72 Munich Olympic team.
Yep.
What was it like being there? Like, what was the atmosphere? Let's do it before and after. So before everything happened at the Munich Olympics with the terrorists, what was the atmosphere like being in Germany?
Germany, at that time, was probably one of the cleanest cities. Munich was probably one of the cleanest cities I've ever been. I've been to Germany several times before that, but I've never been to Munich.
Right.
And because of the Olympics, but it was very clean. Even down in the cities, we didn't see anything negative. The village itself was very nice. Wasn't completed in some areas of building it because it turned into a housing complex later. When they normally build Olympic villages, that's what happens to them. They turn into apartments and stuff, but they weren't completed. It's nice facilities. Because we had one of the largest contingents of athletes, we had one of the largest buildings. they had several different levels of buildings. One was with larger teams, one with smaller teams, had smaller buildings. So ours was, they got a lot of stuff that we could, all you can eat 24/7. Had places you can play games, you can do anything you wanted to do. You had a pass to go anywhere you wanted to go. And you got several tickets to different venues. You didn't get a lot of them, but you got certain days that you can go watch certain things. I went and watched basketball, I watched gymnastics and some swimming.
Was the security tight? Like, did you
It,
really?
it was, at first it was not that quite tight in our complex, I mean in the dorm area that we lived. But until, if you just give you a little background, you asked me a question about Mark Spitz.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, before whatchamacallit, was one of the greatest swimmers I've ever seen.
Right.
You have to remember, back then, we're in Germany, Mark Spitz is Jewish.
Didn't know that.
So every day he got threatened. If he wins another gold medal, somebody's going to kill him. That was every time he won a gold medal. I mean, so security got tight. We had a guard at our door. We didn't have one before, but we got several guards at our door to come in and out. We had to check in and out, which we normally didn't have to do.
Right.
But once that happened, that's what happened. Everything else was fine. Then it got worse when they had the terrorist attack.
Right.
Security got real tight all over the place.
I'm sure.
But before that, it was go wherever you wanted to go without any problems, as long as you had your badges on, going in and out of the area.
Normal type of Olympic
Normal
experience.
type was no problem.
So, after or during the terrorist attacks.
When the terrorist attack, which is a strange thing, nobody in the village knew, except where it was happening.
Right.
Because it happened in the middle of the night. And I wasn't aware because I had a friend that was at Murray State playing basketball, but he was from Puerto Rico. Actually, he's Puerto Rican by way of New York. But he's from Puerto Rico, so he can play. He had dual citizenship, so he could play for the United States, or he could play for Puerto Rico. So we came in good contact with each other during the Olympics. I usually go to his village and see him. He had one of the high rise because they had a large contingent. So I going to his village, which is unusual because I used to go by it every day, and everybody has to go by it to go to eat or go to the track. It's the way you have to go. So they wouldn't let me go any further than his door, entrance to his door. So I went to his room, and he told me to come to the window. I said, "What for?" And we looked out. And if you ever see any pictures of the terrorists, they're sitting on a balcony with machine guns and bullet vests.
Right. And that's what
I
you
could
saw.
see it. I actually laughed.
Like how far away?
Like it's like a sidewalk away.
Okay.
I mean, the building's here, and his building's like here.
Right.
And I can look down visibly. If they wanted to shoot, he could shot us.
Right.
That's how close we were.
That's crazy.
It was kind of frightening after that.
Everything happened, and most everybody knows the story about.
If you know the story about the massacre, we call it the massacre, about the terrorist attack. After that, the Olympics shut down for a day. They had a grieving ceremonies in the stadium itself. So what that did, it shifted all the events, times, and schedule.
Right.
But they forgot to realize that we are on a chartered plane. We have a certain time we have to leave.
Right.
So, and everybody who was leaving had to, so everything was moved and everything was pushed, not normal.
Right.
Because a lot of the races were rushed.
Everything was pushed around.
Pushed around and rushed, just trying to make sure they get it done after that.
Right.
That it was going to shut it down, but they decided not to.
So the mood, you really didn't even have a chance to digest anything because you guys were just wondering when's my next race?
When your next race is and what's going to happen.
Right. How do I get home? Like just everything was just messed up at that point.
It was kind of screwy. It was kind of messed up, and it affected how a lot of stuff happened.
Okay.
Because to get to the story of the 4x4 relay, and it happened to a little, well, I think the 100 wasn't affected by that because I think that was before they broke in.
Okay.
But the 4x4 was affected because of the schedule. And they had a protest of the first and second runners, Vince Matthews and Wayne Collette. They went 1-2 in the finals. They should have went 1-2-3.
In the
400.
okay.
They should have won 1-2-3. John Smith, who if you know, he's the
Right.
coach, and now was in the favorite to win when he won the Olympic trials. When he was in the Olympics trials, he got hurt prior to the Olympics, but he made it all the way to the finals on a hurt leg. He got to the finals and pulled up in the first curve because he couldn't finish.
Right.
And so the race was over, and if you ever been to watched the Olympics, the guys come back for the ceremonies. But normally, when you see it on TV, it might have been 2 hours ago.
Right.
It might have been,
It's tape delayed.
it's tape delayed, but it is also, it takes a period of time because they got to go get drug tested,
Right.
and then they have to change uniforms. You can't wear the same uniform that you ran in.
Right.
You're supposed to wear. You had a ceremony uniform, and you had a track uniform. The ceremony uniform is the one you take to the finals. If you win or place in the top 3, you put on this, and you come back out to the ceremonies after you get tested.
Right.
So what they did is they rushed them into testing and rushed them back out, which they don't normally do. It would take a while. So they was rushed out. The whole contingent, I was in because I want to watch the race, I was in the contingent with the United States athletes. We were sitting in a section. Track and field is like a circus, as you know.
Right.
There could be something going on here and there, but you don't know what's happening if you're not watching for certain things. So when you hear, sometimes you hear the national anthem of the favorite country that won, the athlete that won. We heard the national anthem, but it took us about 3 bars before we even knew it was being played. Because nobody stood up or did anything. When you hear a whistling, that's booing. So we started hearing all these whistling. So we said, oh, what's going on? Because it has to be something bad because in the United States you hear booing.
Right.
But over there you hear whistling, that means there's something bad.
Okay.
So we had to figure out what was going on. So the word got back that there was something going on in the ceremonies. What happened was Vince Matthews and Wayne Collette was on the #1 podium undressed because they had rushed them out and they didn't put their uniform on. They had their shoes off because they just finished the race. You just finished running and winning the Olympics.
Right.
So you didn't have
They're
time.
still catching their breath.
You haven't had time to catch your breath and recover and feel the whole gist of it. So there on this podium, Vince invited Wayne up to the top on the #1 spot. The national anthem was being played. They were talking. So they thought it was a protest,
Gotcha.
which is basically a protest, not a protest, but it's not following the protocol.
Right.
And so
Because you guys had rules in place.
you had rules in place
of what
to
you were
say
supposed to
you're
do.
You're supposed to stand at attention and listen whichever way the flag was,
Right.
and listen to the national anthem of the country. If you was in second or third, you listened to Russia
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
But they didn't, so they booed. They were going to be kicked out of the Olympics. Originally, all they had to do was to apologize. Bundage was going to let them back.
And who's that?
He was the IOC leader.
Okay.
He was going to let them back in. But the United States said no because they embarrassed the country.
And this is your 400 runners.
There's 2 of them.
Right. Your top 2
Your
minus
top
the
2.
guy that was
Okay, you
supposed
got 3 hurt. You got
Right.
3 gone. So
Right.
you got 3 left. You have 6 alternates, which After this, started in '76, it changed. They changed the rule. The rule is you enter 6 guys for the 4x1 and the 4x4. Only those 6 athletes can run.
Right.
And there's no switching one guy to run in the prelims. They only can run the prelims and
Right.
the finals.
Right.
You have to pick 4 of them out of the 6.
Right.
But only those 6. We had several guys that could run on the relay. We tried a substitute. They would not a substitute.
So
All we needed was one more guy.
So your fastest guy goes down in the finals with a pulled hamstring.
You got
Your next 2 fastest guys inadvertently get
Kicked out.
disqualified because of being rushed and there just being a misunderstanding.
yeah.
Maybe some
Well,
communication
they
error.
misunderstanding, but in their eyes, they still consider you can consider it in their eyes a protest, but it wasn't actually a protest like '68 with
Right.
John.
It wasn't the fist in the air.
Yeah, it wasn't that blatant that they was going to do it. Like
Right.
that. But
So,
they took it as being
so that's your 3. So that only leaves you with
he
3.
was with 3.
And you were you slated to run on the?
I was
the
slated to
4x4?
run in John's spot because they didn't want to take a chance
Okay.
for him because he was
So,
hurting all the
so
way
you were
through.
the number 5 guy.
I was number 5. I finished 5th in the finals
Okay.
of the Olympic trials.
Gotcha.
So that gave me the
number 5
5th
spot. So you guys then don't even get to run.
We don't get to go to the. All we needed to do is go to the prelims.
Right.
That's all we wanted to do is get to the prelims, hoping that John would get healthy enough.
To make it into the finals.
If we could have got one more to the finals, but they wouldn't let us substitute. All we needed was one guy.
Right.
They
And,
wouldn't let
and,
us.
and
We had-
USA had the talent there. I mean,
Oh yes, we had the 200 guy, Larry Black, 43 in college.
right.
But he wasn't a quarter miler, but he ran on their relay team in North Carolina Central. But he'd run 43.
So
We had several guys, all they could run is 45.
so
All we
what?
needed.
So your number 5 Olympic trial time. What was that?
I ran 45-1.
Okay.
Lee Evans was 4th. The Olympic champion, world record holder, was over the 4th guy.
Right.
That's what only thing he came to do was run the 4x. He's Olympic champion
Right.
in '68 with 2 gold medals. And the only thing he came to do was run the 4x4. He didn't get to run. And you talking about somebody mad?
Oh, absolutely.
He was.
Because I mean, that's 4 years of training
It's 4 years of training.
of just
That's 8 years
to
of
go
what
down the
he's done.
drain from
All
just
all
craziness, just pure craziness.
All we did was wanted to get there to run. All I wanted to do was run it. Whether I got a medal or not, I wanted to. We ran a pre-Olympic meet before the Olympics started. They had some countries run. We ran certain races. We ran a 4x4. I ran 44.9. I was ready to run. I was working hard to run the relay. And that happened. But from that point on, from '76, you can take any runner on your Olympic team and run your prelims and the finals if they're not in the top 4. So in Olympic trials, you got to finish the top 4 automatically, puts you on the relay.
Right.
Now, you can have a 6th and a 7th finisher that finished 5th and 6th. You can take all of them if you want, or you can take somebody that's off the team. In that situation, if I was in '76 Olympic team, or right now, if I ran on the prelims and I don't run the finals, whatever place they get, I get a medal because I ran the prelims.
Right.
So back then, only those 6 could run, nobody else.
Right. That's
It
crazy.
didn't matter. They changed a few rules, but it's
But
other than that, that was a disappointment. But I enjoyed the experience of being at the Super Bowl of track and field.
right. That well, I mean,
even
you,
though
you made it.
even though World Championship is a big thing too nowadays,
Right.
but we didn't have a World Championship.
The Olympics were it.
That was it. But I ran on several national teams for the United States. I ran against the Russians several times. They had dual meets against the Russians in the United States, indoors and outdoors. I was a representative on each one of them. I went to Europe back in '69. Me and Lee Evans went 1-2 every meet we ran over in Europe. They took a national team. We ran against Germany. We ran against England. We ran against an all-star team for a whole summer.
Okay. That Olympic team had some of the biggest names on it of what we know today, of the famous names.
You left some off.
I'm
just saying there was some,
and I want you to tell me who those are, because I mean, like I have the ones that I know is Coach Bowerman. You know, the
Mr.
future,
Shoe.
Yeah, Mr. Shoe Man.
I went to his first shoe store.
Right.
In Eugene, Oregon.
Which was Blue Ribbon Sports.
Blue Ribbon Sports, above in an attic.
Right.
In an attic. Strange thing about it, I went there once. Went there to visit it, but I wasn't the elite athlete. I was with an elite athlete that got all the good stuff. But there, he got stuff, I get nothing.
Right.
I run the prelims, the semis of the trials.
At Oregon.
In Oregon. Win my semis, beat Lee Evans. All of a sudden I get a knock on the door. Now I get all this stuff because they won't knock you in the finals.
Right. So
that's how it works.
Right. You do good, they give you stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But back then, if I was doing what I was doing back then, what the kids are doing today, I wouldn't be sitting right here. No, but they were giving away a lot of money back then. I mean, you talking about people getting deals here.
Right.
You can get you can drop out of high school and get a pro contract.
Right. Not then.
Not then.
No,
Well, they tried it.
But giving you shoes was, I mean,
back then getting shoes, clothes, stuff like that was good. They sent it to your college, wherever you were.
Okay.
I wound up getting shoes shipped to me.
Okay.
But that was
so it was an endorsement deal while you were in college, but it wasn't an endorsement deal.
It wasn't an endorsement deal. So I gave most of them away to the kids on the team, but
Gotcha.
But it wasn't a totally endorsement. But
so
most of you got while you were not in college, you were traveling somewhere.
Some other big names, and you know I'm more of a distance person, so
you have
but Prefontaine.
Yep.
You have Vincent Matthews, Wayne Collette, Robert Taylor, Dave Waddle, Jim Ryan, Frank Shorter, all those very well-known names. So what are the names that I'm missing on this list?
Oh, let me see. You're missing. Who do you know? John Smith.
John Smith.
You probably know as a coach. What's his name? Davenport.
Yep.
Willie Davenport, great hurdler. Ralph Boston.
And
you had
I mean,
you don't even, the women were just phenomenal. There were some great women athletes. There was some great athletes who was on the women's team.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would you say was the best at that time on the women's team?
Davis. Probably one of the better women at that time. I have a lot of stuff about them. I just don't have it to show you right now. But there's some outstanding athletes on the team. My roommates were Gerald Tinker, Fred, what's his name? Larry Black. These are two kids from Miami.
Okay.
They were from Miami. Larry Black and Gerald Tinker was probably two of the biggest name sprinters in South Florida.
Okay.
Gerald went to Memphis, and Larry Black went to North Carolina Central.
Okay.
Dr. Leroy Walker was the head coach at the time of North Carolina Central, and he had a bunch. He had a kid from Africa that was. We were afraid that's the only team that would have beaten us. They won the race.
They had a good stack.
They won the race, but they'd have given us some. They had several good kids on their team from Kenya.
Okay.
I saw the basketball players.
Oh yeah.
I was there when they tore up the place.
What was that?
Well, the basketball team lost the gold medal.
Okay.
On back then, I guess you would call right now you call it a do-over. Stop the clock and add seconds.
Right.
They added seconds on the clock. the United States already had the lead, and they added seconds. The guy threw a half-court pass, and the big guy they had turned around and bumped it in. But they should not have had the extra time.
And so,
And they told up. They would not even go get their medals.
the silver medals. And now this was before Dream Team, so it was
Before
amateur
the
athletes.
Dream, these are all college athletes.
Right, it's all amateur college
These are
athletes.
college athletes, yeah.
And they were not excited about
They
the
were
added
not-
seconds.
No.
So, is there any of your teammates from either the Pan Am or the Olympic Games that you like keep in touch with regularly?
Regularly, I keep in touch with a few guys that I see through my profession. I've seen through my profession. I just don't communicate as far as word of mouth.
Gotcha.
I see John Smith
Every
and
once in
Lee
a while.
Evans. Lee Evans is I contacted him because of he's on Facebook. He asked me to be on Facebook, so
Okay.
I requested. But Lee Evans and a few others. But most of them I met through my coaching career.
Okay. After the Olympics, did you compete in any more races?
I competed all the way up to 74.
Okay.
Like I said, back then we weren't getting a lot of money when you dedicate 4 years.
Right.
College was fine because I was there.
Right.
I was getting 3 meals
But
a day.
you graduated 71.
Yeah, but I was in graduate school.
Okay.
I was still in school so I could train.
Right.
And that year that I did the Pan Ams, the year that I did the Olympics, I was still in graduate school.
Okay.
And when I went to the Olympics, I spent 1/2 semester trying to get a job.
Okay.
I spent a half semester in Washington, D.C., training for the indoor season. And I spent 1 more year finishing my graduate degree at Murray State and training and running. I ran a couple indoor meets, a couple outdoor meets. When I finished, after the Olympics, I was trying to make a decision what I was going to do, either go back to graduate school or keep training. And for host, I think it's that half a year I was training in Washington, D.C., which I don't know if you know, you probably know Brooks Johnson.
Yes.
He was my coach for that year, for 2 years.
Okay.
I ran for his club for during the Olympics
Okay.
trials. And I was
Which
with
club was that?
Sports International at the time.
Okay.
That's what the name of the team in Washington, D.C. He had several good athletes girls athletes on the team. I trained there for half a year, and I told him they had me working at the National Cathedral, or St. Albans, which is a part of the National Cathedral. I was teaching PE at the time, and trying to train, trying to get a job. Wasn't making a lot of money, so had living with in a house that he owned without have to worry about paying anything. But without any money, without anything to do, I decided to go back to graduate school.
Okay.
I went back to Murray in that following spring, and I trained for about a year and ran a couple meets, and then it became the point you can't live.
You had to make a
You got
decision.
to make a decision. I wasn't making any money because there wasn't a lot of money.
There wasn't money contracts for track.
There wasn't a lot of money given out, so
Yeah.
you have to be a real big name to
Right.
negotiate anything. I was okay, but just getting free flights, motels, and maybe a little stipend here and there, that's not paying a lot of bills.
No. Still got to eat.
So I decided to go back to graduate school and finish graduate school, and I got hooked on being a teacher.
Okay. Retired 74? Retired from
I
running?
actually retired from running in 74.
Okay.
Because I couldn't see 2 more years of trying to train for 76. I
Right.
wanted to. I probably would have had an opportunity to make the team, but you got to be committed to.
You were ready to move on to that
Yeah,
next
yeah,
chapter.
I wanted something else
Okay.
because it became a business.
Right.
If you wasn't making what they wanted or doing what they wanted, you wasn't getting any money. Plane trips, motel.
Right.
And that's.
And it was all still amateurism at that time too.
Yeah,
So you had to be
so I
real
wasn't
careful
making,
with what you
wasn't
did.
make any money, so you wasn't making any money, so it was kind of rough.
So when you retired, what were your fastest times in the 400? Like, what's your career PRs? In
My
the
career
events?
PR, 45-1 officially.
For the
That's my
440?
fast 400. 20.8 in the 200. Well, back then we run the 200, 220s.
Right.
I actually ran a 100-yard dash in 9.6.
Okay. All right.
But remember, in the 70s we were running yards before we converted.
Right. You're running yards. You're also running.
But if you look at the times that I ran, say 45-1.
Right.
440 yards. Compare that to what they're running now.
Yeah. It's,
how much difference is that?
That's.
It's only 437 yards.
Right.
So the 70s, what the guys were running are still comparable to what the guys are running now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, I would say more so back then, like they were probably more of an eye-opening time for the simple fact that you don't have the technology that we have today with the lighter uniforms, the lighter shoes, the synthetic tracks. I mean, it's crazy that we've added all this stuff and we've gotten faster. Like, I mean, we have faster athletes, but it's still.
But even now,
even the time difference, it's still good.
If you go back and look at the finals of the Olympic trials in '72, 8th place was under 10 seconds.
Right.
And he didn't make the team.
Right.
And nobody in the Olympic trials, in the Olympics, ran that fast.
Right.
The 8th place person would have scored.
Right. Which is crazy.
We had 8 guys, and 4 of them got left. 5 of them got left home.
Right. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
5 of the best sprinters in the country got left home.
So, you retired. You go back to grad school. You retire from running. You go back to grad school. What led you to Florida?
What led me to Florida? I spent 5 years at the local high school. After I did graduate school and
local high school
in Murray.
Okay.
I did graduate school. I finished my graduate work part-time when I was working part-time. They offered me a full-time job, and I said, okay. So I took the coaching and teaching job at Murray High School. Helped coached, started my coaching on football. I did basketball and track. So we won a state championship in 1974. Had several kids go to state in track. And I had an opportunity. John Kraft, who was the Olympic triple jumper, was at Eastern Illinois. He's going to take a sabbatical to work on his doctorate degree, and contacted me. Was interested in the job, so I took his place for 1 year. They wanted me to stay longer, but Illinois in the wintertime is not where I wanted to be. I grew up in Missouri, and I know what wintertime was.
A little cold.
But when you had the worst winter in 100 years, and you had snow on the ground, and you're trying to run in April, you can't run in April.
It's time to find somewhere else.
So I told him I either going to go to California or I'm going to Florida.
Okay.
So Jimmy Corns was on that last phase of his retirement. They offered me a job.
Jimmy Carnes when he was coaching at Florida?
He was coaching at Florida.
Okay.
He was going to be in the last year of his retirement, and offered me a job. I came down to Florida. I worked part-time with him and part-time with the University of Florida.
Working part-time with him, coaching or?
Coaching first.
Okay.
But he started Athletic Addict.
Okay.
In the mall.
Yep.
I worked in the mall in Athletic Addict and coached at the university.
Okay.
Part-time.
As an assistant?
As an assistant. And then when he retired, I got a job by Coach Benson.
Roy
Benson.
Okay.
So I got a full-time job with him. So I stayed at UF.
Oh, okay. So he was coaching at UF.
He was coaching at
Okay.
UF. And I stayed with him till Coach, the next coach came. I stayed another 3 or 4 years. And then decided it wasn't for me.
Okay.
I wanted to give college a shot, and I have nothing against college. I would love to be as successful as some of the coaches are, but it wasn't for me. because it's more recruiting the right athlete.
Right. Not necessarily developing.
Developing, he or she's coming with the talent. You just got to work with it, and you got to, with more technology you have right now with weightlifting and all that stuff, you get into it, yes. But over 40-something years, I've enjoyed coaching young kids that never knew anything about track and field or any sport.
Right.
To watch them when their eyes open up that they just won their first race.
So how did you end up at Santa Fe High School?
After I left UF, looking for a job, I got a job at Palaco.
Okay.
Right after Brahman left, Coach Brahman.
Okay.
He went to Seminole, and I just happened to apply for the job and stayed there for 4 years. Would have been there longer, but my wife kept wanting me to come because I lived in Gainesville.
Right.
And traveled to Palaco every day.
So that's what, an hour drive?
Hour drive every day.
Yep.
An hour drive back home, plus coaching.
Right.
So
Long hours.
sometimes I wouldn't get home till late. So
Right.
it was decision making. They wanted me back here in the county, but the county said there was no opening for me. There's no PE job or driver's ed jobs opening at the time. So that's what I wanted to be into. So she said, if you go to school and get certified, I had enough credits to get certified in math. So I got certified at Santa Fe Community College, took a couple classes, got a job, and then Santa Fe. When I was at Palaco, they encouraged me to come. One of the coaches over there I knew well wanted me to come
To Santa Fe.
to Santa Fe. And
Okay.
that's where I've been ever since.
So you've been coaching at Santa Fe for how long?
Actually it's 30, I retired 30 years, so it's been 33 years.
33 years. That's awesome. But you were coaching before that, so
I got over 40-something years.
40 years of coaching, which is awesome. Growing up, did you have a favorite coach? Like, was there ever a coach
There
that
wasn't a per se coach other than my high school coach.
Okay. Like he was a pretty good influence.
He was a pretty good influence on me as what he coached a lot of my people in my family, football. He was basically a football track guy, but his main priority was football. But he was real good in track, and I really admired him. He convinced me, because he convinced me that I was going to be real good and fought to get me to the Golden South. If you knew back then,
Yeah.
Not the Golden South, the Golden West.
Oh, okay.
Back then, that was the big meet.
Right.
The top 8 athletes in the United States go there.
Okay.
And so I got to
It
go
was a
there.
showcase event.
Yeah, I got to go there in Sacramento, California, and it was I finished 4th in the 400.
Okay. Do you have any athletes that stand out from
I have
all 40 years of coaching?
I have many. My first one would be Josh Jett. He was one of my first cross-country track runners that I had when I first went to Santa Fe.
Okay.
That was outstanding. He ran like 16:20, I think.
And
Back
3
then,
miles.
well, 3 miles. Well, they were running 3 miles. 3 miles.
Right.
Not 5Ks, 3 miles. And his sister-in-law, which he finally coached, is Brittany Swick, who ran 18.
For 3 miles also.
They were running. Santa Fe was what you call it, running 3 miles. That's when the girls moved up.
The girls moved up, I believe, in in 98. I
Yeah,
believe,
that
when
was.
the girls
Yeah,
started
she
running.
graduated in 2001.
Yeah.
That's when she did her senior year. She ran. She was at Buchholz's Classic, so it had to be when they were running 5Ks then.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ran 5K. She ran 18, and his wife. Actually, I've coached all these families there.
Right.
So his wife. This is that team right there, plus the coach. That's the guy. He became my assistant.
Right.
They ran 9:30. But they ran 9:32.
Okay.
That at the time was the state record.
Okay.
It's been broken since then.
Right,
but,
right, right.
But they were the first to run.
Awesome.
The state meet down in Coral Springs?
Coral Springs.
Yeah.
What year? 2000?
2001, they were runner-up in state.
Okay.
That's my team that was runner-up in state. Girls, the only girls team I've had.
Gotcha.
Girls team I had runner-up, but At Palaca, I was a runner-up in state my first year there.
Palaca has really good athletes.
Very good athletes.
All the time.
All the time.
So.
Just no matter who the coach is.
Right.
You get the right coach. When I left them with a state championship team.
Okay.
They've had some good athletes come through there.
Awesome.
I actually had the first triple jumper ever go over 50 feet in the state.
At state meet?
At the state meet.
And that was with Palaca or Santa Fe?
Palaca.
Okay. Can you remember what year that was?
It's 80, be 84, 85. Ken Brahman's son.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's funny.
He's coaching the greatest athletes.
Right. Out at the training center.
Yeah. And I just want to give a shout out to Coach Holloway. I've known Mike since he first came to Gainesville.
Right.
When he was in junior college, Santa Fe Community College.
Right.
I knew then that his interest and his dedication was on top, because he called me a lot of times when we started coaching at B-Votes. We talked a lot about, because he had several good athletes and he wanted to know how to coach them, why is this not happening, and for what he's done.
So
I contributed to his success.
I know a little bit about Mouse, and yeah. I mean, from what I've heard, it sounded like he was very fresh when he came to Gainesville.
He was fresh as far as coaching.
Right. But he had the drive.
He had the drive.
And he wanted to do it, and he made it happen. And I mean, a lot of people would give up in a lot of situations, but I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that he had to work really hard and overcome a lot of things to get to where he is. Mm-hmm. And by doing so, he has now become the greatest coach in the country.
I can admit to, I've seen him suffer as far as trying financially. When you coach and trying to live off of supplements,
right.
You cannot do that as a coach.
Right.
You can't live off of I don't know what the supplement is in Gilchrist County, but
no, the supplements are not very high anywhere, really.
You can't make it.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a degree in teaching every day, I'm coaching free.
Right.
Because the money I get for coaching is nowhere compared to what the work we put in.
Right.
So if it wasn't for the degree and teaching, living off of that money, I couldn't live off a supplement. We couldn't pay a bill.
Right.
Because you only get it either at the end of the year, they gave it to you prorated. Who's gonna live off of $50?
Right. But he tried to do that for a while.
He tried to do that for a while. I tried to convince him you need to get into the system.
Right.
You have to get a job. I mean, he had several jobs, but you can't go and be a show-up coach.
Right.
And it's difficult to do.
Right.
And he managed. He had some great cross-country teams and great track teams.
Yeah.
But it's because he worked at it.
Right.
And but he was not a track coach when he came. He was an athlete.
Right. He's a hurdler.
He's a hurdler. He's pretty good, very good hurdler.
Right.
But he worked at I guess that if you have a goal, I guess you go after it. And I guess that's what he wanted to do. He was an assistant. He's assistant here, head here, assistant here. And he stuck along being at Florida, being an assistant for as long as he could do and learn a lot. He was willing to learn. And that pays off. And now he's one of the greatest coaches. Who coaches those who gets those kind of athletes?
Right.
To coach. You have to have a good relationship with them.
Yeah. Well, is there anybody else you'd like to give a shout out to before we?
Scott.
Scott, your wife for putting up with you.
My wife for putting up with me. But she says track is my second love.
Yeah.
And that's what I do.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to be here right now. I retired, but I can't. This is not what I'm built for.
You missed the track.
I'm not built for this.
I understand.
I'm not built for this. I got to have something to do in relationship to track.
Absolutely.
I'll do whatever I can, and I do it not because of me. This, like I tell the kids, these things hang on the wall.
Right.
Not one of them paid a bill yet.
No.
Because of it has, but not itself.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to do these interviews today, and I hope that everybody appreciates the time that you took with us today, and the knowledge and the history. So I hope everybody can make sure to like and subscribe to this page, and hopefully you guys will enjoy more of these coming up. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.